Cybertruck rolls through Manchester like a spaceship on wheels. Sleek, massive, impossible to ignore. Elon Musk's flagship vehicle, banned from UK roads without mercy. This wasn't a minor paperwork issue. It was a full-on rejection of Tesla's vision. A dramatic takedown that no one saw coming. Within minutes, flashing lights surround it. British police step in. No warning, no second chances. The officer doesn't just pull the driver over. He seizes the truck on the spot. So now the question isn't what happened in Manchester. Why is the UK leading a broader European revolt against Tesla? What made regulators call the Cybertruck a rolling hazard? Why did Tesla ignore the warning signs for years? And is this the final nail in the coffin for Musk's global EV dominance? What's happening? The Cybertruck was supposed to be a revolution in automotive design. Tesla wanted to break every rule, and they did. But in the United Kingdom, breaking certain rules has consequences. At the center of the controversy is the Cybertruck's exoskeleton. Unlike traditional vehicles that use deformable structures and rounded panels for crash safety, the Cybertruck features sharp edges and a cold-rolled stainless steel shell. To Elon Musk and Tesla engineers, this design choice represented innovation, strength, and resilience. But to UK regulators, it represented danger, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists. Under UK and broader European Union safety standards, vehicle exteriors must be designed to minimize injury during low-speed collisions. That's why most cars have rounded hoods and soft corners. They deform and absorb energy in a way that reduces the risk of serious injury. It does the opposite. Its edges are angular. Its shell is rigid. There is no crumple zone. In essence, it turns a moving vehicle into a battering ram. Worse still, those edges aren't just stylistic. They're structural. You can't round them off or replace them without fundamentally altering the vehicle's architecture. In fact, Tesla patented the Cybertruck's edge design as a critical component of the vehicle's body integrity. In other words, the very thing that makes the Cybertruck stand out is also what makes it impossible to approve in Europe. UK regulators saw this coming. In internal reports, safety agencies had flagged the Cybertruck as non-compliant years before it hit the road. The seizure in Manchester wasn't a surprise. It was a long-awaited confirmation of what safety engineers had feared, and it was only the beginning. And yet, the deeper you look, the more cracks begin to show. What happened in Manchester was just the start, the license law no one talked about. In the United States, drivers often favor large, heavy vehicles. Trucks and SUVs dominate the market, but in the United Kingdom, vehicle regulations are written with very different assumptions. British citizens who received their driving licenses after the year 1997 are legally limited to operating vehicles that weigh no more than 3,500 kilograms. Approximately 7,700 pounds. That's the total allowed weight, including the vehicle itself, passengers, and any cargo. And here's where Tesla hits another legal wall. The Cybertruck's curb weight starts at over 6,800 pounds. Add in passengers, gear, or aftermarket parts, and it easily crosses the legal threshold. That means a person with a standard UK driver's license cannot legally operate a Cybertruck on public roads. Doing so would require a special Category C1 license, typically reserved for delivery vans, small commercial vehicles, and emergency service drivers. In simpler terms, buying a Cybertruck in the UK would be like buying a bus. Sure, you can own one, but unless you're licensed as a commercial vehicle operator, you can't drive it. This issue, much like the design flaws, is not something Tesla can fix with a quick patch or an over-the-air software update. It's baked into the DNA of the vehicle. The only way to make the Cybertruck lighter would be to fundamentally redesign the materials, body structure, and battery platform, none of which Tesla has any plans to do. This licensing hurdle might seem minor, but it's a massive logistical roadblock. It means that even if all other problems were solved, the Cybertruck would still be illegal for most British drivers. And that brings us to the final nail in the coffin. A piece of tech that was meant to lead the future, but couldn't even pass a present-day inspection. The innovation that killed it. Steer-by-wire rejected. Tesla's vision for the Cybertruck included many forward-thinking innovations. One of the most ambitious, the steer-by-wire system, a complete departure from traditional mechanical steering. Instead of using a steering column physically connected to the wheels, the Cybertruck sends electronic signals to steer the vehicle. It's sleek, it's futuristic, it's incredibly precise. And in the UK, it's illegal. Here's why. UK safety law requires that all steering mechanisms be manually verifiable. That means government inspectors must be able to physically examine the steering linkage to confirm it is safe, properly installed, and fail-safe. But with Tesla's digital system, there is no physical linkage to inspect. It operates entirely via software. And if the software fails, the driver could lose control entirely. Tesla argues that their system has redundancies, but regulators aren't buying it. Until steer-by-wire systems can be physically tested and certified, they cannot be approved for use on UK roads. No exception, no workaround, just rejection. This is not just a Tesla issue, by the way. No manufacturer using a full steer-by-wire system has passed UK inspection. But Tesla's insistence on using it in the Cybertruck, despite knowing it would face regulatory barriers, only highlights the company's growing rift with global safety standards. But as Elon fought back in the headlines, the UK was just getting started, and Europe was watching closely. The lighting scandal. Why Tesla's LED bar is illegal. Tesla's design team wanted to make a statement. The Cybertruck's full-width LED light bar across the front end looks like it was pulled straight from a science fiction film. Sleek, futuristic, and visually striking. It made a bold first impression that had enthusiasts around the world drooling. But in the United Kingdom and the European Union, that design is not just controversial, it's outright illegal. Here's why. Lighting regulations in Europe are not just guidelines. They are strict, rule-bound standards that are enforced with zero tolerance. Vehicles sold in these markets must comply with exact height, brightness, spacing, and functionality requirements for every single light on the vehicle. That includes headlights, daytime running lights, turn indicators, fog lights, and brake lights. Each type of light must be placed in specific zones of the vehicle and must be independently housed to ensure visibility from different angles and under varying driving conditions. Tesla's Cybertruck, with its one-piece LED bar running across the front, breaks no fewer than 6 of these critical regulations. For example, the continuous bar merges multiple light functions into a single strip. In European law, this is not just frowned upon, it is forbidden. Turn indicators must be visually separated from headlights. Brake lights cannot share the same light source as tail lamps, and even the angle at which lights are visible from the side is regulated down to the degree. European road conditions are also a key factor. Unlike the wide-open highways of the United States, roads in the United Kingdom are narrower, often poorly lit, and frequently subject to fog and rain. Under these conditions, precise lighting becomes not just a matter of style, but one of survival. Regulators argue that Tesla's design, while futuristic, impairs peripheral visibility, increasing the risk of misjudged distances and collisions, especially with pedestrians and cyclists. But Tesla's mistake goes deeper than just aesthetics. The lighting design on the Cybertruck is embedded into the exoskeleton frame, making it structurally integral. Swapping it out for a legal design is not a simple matter of retrofitting different bulbs or lenses. It would require redesigning the front end of the truck entirely, a change that could run upwards of $150,000 per unit. So while Elon Musk may see the light bar as a design triumph, European regulators see it as a deal breaker, and they're not bending. For Tesla, it's a painful lesson in what happens when innovation fails to consider international compliance. Unfortunately for Tesla, the lighting design isn't the only problem built into the Cybertruck. The very materials used in its construction violate another critical safety principle, the steel problem. Why Tesla's tank-like frame was doomed. Elon Musk once bragged that the Cybertruck was virtually bulletproof, capable of withstanding sledgehammer hits and small arms fire. That might sound impressive at a tech demo, but in the European Union, being bulletproof is not the same as being safe. The Cybertruck's frame is made from 30x cold-rolled stainless steel, a proprietary alloy Tesla claims is ultra-durable, and it is. It's also wildly out of step with what European regulators require for road safety. The issue? Energy absorption. European crash safety standards prioritize what engineers call crumple zones, areas of the vehicle specifically designed to collapse during an impact, absorbing the energy of the crash before it reaches the passenger cabin. This has been a guiding principle of automotive safety since the 1970s, and it's backed by decades of crash test data. The Cybertruck's rigid exoskeleton, on the other hand, is designed to do the exact opposite. Instead of crumpling, it resists impact. That means in a collision, the force isn't absorbed by the body of the vehicle. It's transferred directly to the occupants, or to whatever the Cybertruck hits. In a crash with another car, that's a disaster. In a crash with a pedestrian, it's a tragedy. Worse still, the structural rigidity of the steel frame doesn't just pose safety issues for others on the road. It makes the vehicle harder to repair and more expensive to insure. In the event of even a minor accident, repairing the Cybertruck could require replacing massive steel panels, instead of simply repairing or repainting a crumpled fender. That's a cost multiplier and a logistical nightmare for European insurance firms. European regulators don't just dislike Tesla's steel choice, they see it as a fundamental breach of safety engineering. And while Tesla has patented its exoskeleton design, those patents now serve as evidence that the automaker knowingly pursued a course that directly conflicts with established EU safety law. Between the illegal lighting and the over-engineered steel body, the Cybertruck is already looking like a non-starter in Europe. But even if those issues were magically solved, there's still the question of demand. And that's a problem Tesla can't ignore: the market mismatch. Even if the Cybertruck had passed every safety test and regulatory hurdle, there would still be one big question: who in Europe actually wants one? Pickups in Europe are a novelty, not a necessity. Unlike the United States, where pickup trucks account for more than 20% of all vehicle sales, in the European Union they make up less than 1%. They're too big for urban roads, too inefficient for long-distance driving, and too expensive to justify for the average consumer. Most European cities were built centuries before the automobile, and the roads reflect that. Narrow streets, tight parking, and historic infrastructure make it difficult for large vehicles to navigate. A standard Cybertruck, which stretches nearly 6 meters in length and over 2 meters in width, is simply too big for many European parking garages or residential streets. Fuel economy and emissions are also bigger concerns for European drivers. Even though the Cybertruck is electric, its size and weight mean it uses far more energy than smaller electric vehicles. European consumers gravitate toward hatchbacks, compact crossovers, and small family sedans. Even premium buyers are more likely to choose a Porsche Taycan or a BMW i4 than a tank-like electric pickup. Then there's price. With expected base prices around $80,000 and high-end variants pushing well past $120,000, the Cybertruck is out of reach for most middle-class Europeans. Combine that with punitive taxation on heavy vehicles, and it becomes not just impractical, but financially irresponsible. Culturally, the Cybertruck doesn't align with European sensibilities either. It screams American excess, which might appeal to buyers in Texas or California, but feels out of place in London, Amsterdam, or Paris. It's not just that the Cybertruck doesn't fit the roads, it doesn't fit the culture. And even if there were a niche market for the Cybertruck in Europe, Tesla still faces the final, unbreakable barrier: the legal wall that prevents it from even being sold. The legal wall. Tesla can't sell, can't register, can't fix it. At this point, some Tesla supporters argue that the company could simply make a few changes to the Cybertruck and reapply for European approval. Maybe tweak the lighting, adjust the steering, soften the corners. Problem solved, right? Not even close. To legally sell a vehicle in the European Union, automakers must obtain a certificate of conformity. This certificate confirms that the car meets all relevant safety, environmental, and engineering standards. It's the golden ticket to access the EU market. The Cybertruck doesn't have one. And according to internal Tesla documents leaked earlier this year, it never will. The vehicle's foundational design, from its lighting to its steering system to its structural steel frame, fails to meet the standards required for certification. And those aren't things you can just fix with a software update or a patch kit. They require re-engineering the entire platform. Even registration is a problem. In the United Kingdom, local authorities have already begun rejecting Cybertruck applications due to non-compliance with vehicle standards. Some owners have attempted to register the trucks under foreign plates, hoping to exploit legal loopholes. But police in Manchester recently showed how effective that strategy is, with the high-profile seizure of an imported Cybertruck under Section 165 of the UK Road Traffic Act. The deeper problem is that Tesla never designed the Cybertruck for global compliance. It was built for the American market, specifically for American roads, American laws, and American tastes. That means every attempt to retrofit the Cybertruck for Europe is not just costly, it's futile. Regulators across the EU and UK have now signaled that unless Tesla produces a fundamentally different version of the Cybertruck, it will remain banned from sale, registration, and operation. That puts Tesla in a bind. It can either spend years and millions redesigning a Europe-friendly variant, or it can abandon the European market entirely. And the cost of abandoning Europe? Potentially hundreds of millions in lost sales and long-term brand damage. And here's the bigger problem. It's not just Cybertruck. Tesla's entire presence in Europe is now under pressure. The collapse of trust. Tesla's reputation is cracking. Tesla's long-standing friction with regulators has finally reached a breaking point in Europe. What began as quiet skepticism about Elon Musk's promises has evolved into institutional distrust. Today, European Union agencies no longer treat Tesla as a visionary automaker challenging the status quo. They see it as a liability. The very credibility that propelled Tesla to international dominance is now eroding, and the consequences are escalating by the week. It started with autopilot. While American consumers were captivated by self-driving claims, European regulators raised red flags. Lawsuits filed in Germany and the Netherlands accused Tesla of misleading drivers and failing to meet minimum safety standards. The European New Car Assessment Program flagged Tesla for inconsistent behavior in lane keeping and emergency braking. In the United Kingdom, government watchdogs opened multiple probes into Tesla's marketing and driver assistance technology. Each investigation chipped away at the foundation of trust. Tesla failed to produce transparency reports required by EU safety boards. When asked to submit detailed compliance documents, Tesla either delayed or outright refused. The company's Silicon Valley-style resistance to regulation simply does not work in a continent where safety standards are law, not optional guidelines. The final straw came when the Cybertruck was officially banned from UK roads. The refusal to adapt its design to local pedestrian safety laws confirmed what regulators feared. Tesla was not interested in playing by the rules. Musk's open defiance, including public jabs at British policies on social media, only worsened the situation. Tesla is no longer a trusted partner. To EU regulators, it is now the arrogant outsider that dismisses their rules, ignores their warnings, and expects exemptions. This growing rift has translated into blocked permits, stalled factory approvals, and increasingly cold relationships with European officials. For a company whose future depends on global EV adoption, this is a reputational catastrophe. Yet this breakdown in trust is only one part of the storm. Losing the EV war. Tesla may have invented the modern electric vehicle market, but in Europe, that head start has evaporated. Today, the fastest-growing brands on the continent are not Tesla. They are Volkswagen, Hyundai, and China's BYD. And the reason is brutally simple. These companies followed the rules, built regionally compliant vehicles, and understood the market. Volkswagen, once the face of diesel scandal shame, has rebranded itself as Europe's EV powerhouse. Its ID lineup is specifically designed to meet European safety and efficiency standards. The ID.3 and ID.4 models are not only priced for mass adoption, but also built with compliance-first engineering. Unlike Tesla, VW knows how to build cars for dense cities, narrow roads, and countries that penalize oversized vehicles. Hyundai, meanwhile, took a different approach. The Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 were engineered from the ground up with European buyers in mind. They blend bold design with compact versatility, and more importantly, they qualify for virtually every EU EV incentive. Hyundai earned trust by cooperating with regulators, sharing software architecture insights, and ensuring that their vehicles met every emissions and safety standard without protest. Then there is BYD. Often overlooked, this Chinese giant is now Europe's most aggressive EV invader. Their affordable models are flooding the continent, and governments are struggling to keep up. BYD not only delivers on price, but has also tailored its product lines to comply with Europe's exhaustive regulatory codes. Every model is equipped with eco-compliant materials, crash-tested to EU norms, and manufactured in partnership with European logistics firms. Tesla, by contrast, remains stuck in an American-centric mindset. Its vehicles are too large, its documentation incomplete, and its tone toward regulators increasingly dismissive. Tesla did not lose its lead due to competition alone. It lost because it failed to evolve. While its rivals tailored their products to Europe, Tesla expected the continent to bend. That expectation is proving fatal. From praise to panic. There was a time when European journalists treated Elon Musk like a rock star. Headlines celebrated the rise of the Cybertruck. Reviews fawned over Model 3's range and performance. Editorials praised Musk as a bold disruptor who could rescue the auto industry from stagnation. But that narrative has collapsed. Today, the European press is one of Tesla's most relentless critics. The turning point came not with a single scandal, but with a steady stream of troubling news. Consumer watchdogs began highlighting crash tests where Tesla performed poorly. Coverage of the Manchester Cybertruck seizure spread like wildfire across major outlets. Newspapers once filled with futuristic optimism now run op-eds questioning Tesla's ethics, safety claims, and suitability for European streets. The BBC ran a damning documentary investigating Tesla's labor practices and regulatory shortcuts. Germany's Der Spiegel questioned Tesla's battery sourcing transparency. France's Le Monde went further, labeling Tesla as a technological bully that disrespects local norms. Across the board, the language has shifted from admiration to suspicion. In social media spaces, the backlash is even more severe. TikTok influencers and YouTube reviewers in the UK and Germany now openly mock Cybertruck's design, weight, and legality. Videos showing Tesla vehicles failing routine inspections rack up millions of views. Public confidence, once a cornerstone of Tesla's European strategy, is now in freefall. This media shift has real-world consequences. Public pressure is swaying politicians, pushing regulators to act faster and ban harder. It is reshaping consumer opinion, with many buyers now viewing Tesla as unsafe, non-compliant, and arrogant. In a region where public trust drives regulation, Tesla's media collapse is a direct threat to its survival. And yet the situation continues to worsen. Europe's silent ban. No official order, just total market rejection. There is no single law that bans Tesla from Europe. No sweeping legislation. No public decree. But make no mistake, Europe is quietly phasing out Tesla, and the method is chillingly effective. It begins with certification. Without a European certificate of conformity, no vehicle can be legally sold or registered. Tesla's Model S and Model X no longer receive timely certificates due to their failure to meet updated safety and emissions protocols. Tesla's own delays in submitting test data and engineering reports have left European agencies in limbo. The result, Tesla vehicles are no longer available in many showrooms. Ordering delays stretch for months. Dealers are unwilling to accept trade-ins. Fleet operators are shifting to competitors like Renault and Polestar. While no official ban exists, the brand is vanishing from public life. Meanwhile, consumer demand is plummeting. With safety controversies mounting and regulatory approvals stalling, Tesla has become a risk, both financially and reputationally. Leasing firms quietly remove it from recommended EV lists. Insurance providers raise premiums. Public transit projects that once partnered with Tesla are switching to local EV startups. European countries are not shouting their rejection from the rooftops. They are letting Tesla die quietly through silence and omission. This is not censorship. This is strategic irrelevance. Tesla is not being pushed out. It is being ignored out. The Cybertruck's seizure was a symbolic turning point, but the broader reality is more damning. Europe has moved on, and unless Tesla radically reforms its design, regulatory approach, and attitude, there will be no comeback. And if you think Tesla is the only American automaker in trouble, wait until you see who's next. Ford's Europe meltdown. Ford never got the red carpet welcome it hoped for in Europe, especially when it came to its crown jewel, the F-150. Despite being the best-selling truck in the United States for more than 4 decades, the F-150 was quietly sidelined from the European market. It never saw a widespread launch, and for good reason. It was fundamentally incompatible with Europe's automotive and environmental standards. The F-150 is a textbook example of how American automotive design simply does not translate across the Atlantic. Its massive dimensions make it unsuitable for the tight, winding streets of European cities. Its size creates logistical headaches, from parking space limitations to lane width compliance. The average European road was not built for something that stretches nearly 20 feet in length and towers close to 7 feet in height. But more than its bulk, it was the emissions and safety regulations that made the F-150 a non-starter in the European Union. Europe has long been ahead of the United States in enforcing strict emissions caps, and the F-150, especially in its gasoline-powered versions, consistently ranks among the worst in fuel economy. Even the electric variant, the F-150 Lightning, faces regulatory hurdles due to its weight and battery-related safety standards that differ from those in the United States. Ford never officially declared the F-150 unfit for Europe. Instead, the company just avoided the topic altogether. European consumers never had a chance to reject it because Ford never gave them the chance to say no. And in that silence, the message was clear. The F-150 was a cultural icon in America, but an oversized liability overseas. That silent rejection is now reverberating across the industry. Ford's broader lineup, including its large SUVs and trucks, faces a shrinking presence in European markets. The automaker has been forced to pivot, offering smaller crossovers and electrified compact cars, but it is doing so while losing valuable ground to competitors who were built for European roads from the ground up. General Motors Vanishing Act. General Motors' exit from Europe was not just a retreat, it was an unraveling of decades of investment, infrastructure, and consumer trust. In 2017, General Motors sold its European division, Opel, and its British counterpart Vauxhall to the PSA Group, the parent company of Peugeot. That decision, made largely for financial reasons, left General Motors with zero manufacturing presence and no clear path back into the European market. The timing could not have been worse. While European countries ramped up electric vehicle incentives and began phasing out internal combustion engines, General Motors was essentially locked out. The company tried to maintain a foothold through limited imports of its Chevrolet Bolt and Cadillac Lyriq, but those efforts quickly fizzled. Without a local manufacturing base, General Motors faced tariffs, logistical costs, and an uphill battle to comply with EU safety and emissions regulations. It is not just about the factories, though. It is about market adaptation. European regulators and consumers expect cars that are built to navigate narrow streets, achieve high fuel efficiency, and pass rigorous crash tests focused on both pedestrian and occupant safety. General Motors' current lineup, especially its SUVs and larger electric models, fails to meet these expectations in both form and function. Even when the company does try to re-enter the conversation, it struggles to resonate. Unlike Tesla, which still holds a tech halo among European EV enthusiasts, General Motors lacks brand equity in the region. It is neither a luxury innovator nor a trusted economy brand. It occupies no clear space in the market. In the eyes of European consumers, General Motors is a ghost, a brand that once mattered but now barely exists. That Vanishing Act has cost General Motors more than just sales. It has cost it relevance. As the European Union races toward an electrified future with homegrown and Asian brands leading the charge, General Motors is playing catch-up from the outside looking in. Jeep and Ram destroyed by climate goals. The American SUV dream does not translate well to a continent obsessed with fuel efficiency and climate-conscious urban planning. Jeep and Ram, two brands synonymous with rugged power and aggressive styling, are learning this lesson the hard way. In Europe, their large displacement engines and hulking dimensions have turned from selling points into liabilities. Both brands face a financial pincer movement in the European Union. On one side are the vehicle-specific emissions taxes that penalize gas-guzzling vehicles with exorbitant fees. On the other side are city-level regulations that limit or outright ban high-emission vehicles from entering urban centers. For vehicles like the Jeep Grand Cherokee or Ram 1500, just driving into a city like Paris or Milan can result in steep fines or restricted access. Even electrification has not saved them. Plug-in hybrid versions of popular models still weigh too much and emit too much under real-world conditions to meet the EU's regulatory benchmarks. The added cost of compliance, from developing EU-specific variants to navigating a maze of certification, makes profitability elusive. Public sentiment has also turned. In Europe, the narrative is not about bigger is better, but smaller is smarter. Jeep's branding around adventure and freedom clashes with a political climate that prioritizes sustainability and emissions cuts. Ram's positioning as a brute force workhorse is seen as tone-deaf in a continent where electric cargo vans and bicycles are becoming the norm for logistics. Together, Jeep and Ram are experiencing a slow-motion rejection, not through dramatic bans or headline seizures, but through economic and cultural obsolescence. Their future in Europe is not just uncertain, it is actively shrinking. The EV divide. Europe wants sustainability. America wants power. As American automakers struggle to meet European standards, a larger truth has emerged. The transatlantic EV war is not just about technology or trade policies. It is about values. Europe and the United States are building electric futures on completely different philosophies. In Europe, sustainability is paramount. Regulations are strict, emissions targets are aggressively enforced, and public policy actively discourages oversized, high-powered vehicles. Governments offer generous subsidies for compact EVs, enforce low-emission zones in city centers, and hold automakers accountable for lifetime carbon footprints. The goal is not just to electrify transport, but to rethink mobility entirely. In the United States, the dominant narrative is range, performance, and freedom. American consumers value large electric trucks, fast acceleration, and off-road capability. Policymakers are less unified, with regulations that vary wildly by state and with federal initiatives often diluted by political opposition. This cultural divide means that American EVs, especially ones like the Cybertruck, F-150 Lightning, and Hummer EV, are built for roads that do not exist in Europe and for values that do not align. It is not just about passing inspections. It is about fitting into an urban lifestyle that prioritizes space, emissions, and infrastructure compatibility. Europe, meanwhile, is developing a generation of EVs optimized for its needs. The Volkswagen ID.3, Renault Zoe, Hyundai Kona Electric, and Peugeot E208. These cars are compact, efficient, and designed from the ground up to comply with regulations. They succeed not just because they meet the rules, but because they reflect the values of the people who drive them. For American automakers, the path forward is clear but painful. Adapt or lose access to one of the world's largest and fastest-growing EV markets. The divide is no longer technical, it is ideological, and unless that gap is closed, the collapse of American brands in Europe will not be a fluke, it will be the new normal. So there you have it. The UK didn't just stop the Cybertruck, they sent a message, and now Tesla's global EV empire is starting to crack. From banned light bars to seized vehicles and failed certifications, Europe is done playing nice. And Elon Musk, he's running out of moves. But what do you think? Is Europe being too harsh? Or is Tesla finally facing the consequences? Drop a comment below and let us know where you stand. We're watching. And if you want more truth bombs like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.